interesting, exciting sort of things to talk about. And we have a series of speakers. And we're going to be going through where we stand, where we're going, some of the things, the new products that we've been developing. It's a very exciting day. It's probably one of the largest events that we've had in recent history here in terms of our presentations. And I'm very happy to see so many people, and your support is very much appreciated. Our first speaker for today is Joe Hughes. He's our chairman and the chief executive officer of the managers of the American P&I Club.
Indeed, for coming to attend the American Club's annual matinee. I hope that you find it all very interesting. I'm sure you will. As Dorothea said, we have some interesting things to talk about. I want to thank actually Dorothea and her team of matinee idols, the ladies of SEB Hellas, for making the arrangements for today, and more particularly all of you who have come here to attend this event with us. So I will go through, to begin with, a rundown on the progress in a variety of different ways that the American Club has made over the last 12 months or so. It follows the form that we have traditionally used for this presentation in recent years, so those of you who've been here before will be reasonably familiar with it. And to begin with, I will look at the American Club in profile at the present time, and look first at the distribution of our membership by tonnage. You will see on the left-hand side there, by management domicile, the largest sector of tonnage entered in the club at the moment comes from EMEA. That is to say Europe, Middle East and Africa, but predominantly Europe in that analysis. And of course overwhelmingly from here in Greece. We have a great deal of support from the Greek market, for which we are very grateful. And we look forward to expanding on that over the years ahead. Asia is, as you will see there, a fairly significant part of the overall book also. The United States is comparatively small in tonnage terms, because the majority of the vessels that come from the US tend to be rather small in size. But as you'll see in a moment, it's rather larger in terms of overall premium, and the rest of the world is quite small. That's mainly from South America and parts of Australasia. Looking at vessel type, you'll see that the tanker sector and the dry bulk sector are about equal. The tanker sector has grown slightly by comparison with the dry bulk book of business over the last 12 months, I think mainly as a result of the falling off, obviously, of dry bulk rates and the sale and scrapping of dry bulkers, and a move perhaps among some owners to buy more tankers in recent months. So that sector in tonnage terms is slightly larger, and that about 13% is made up of general cargo, container and passenger vessels by tonnage, and small craft, which is mainly the American book, is only 2%, but again, as you'll see in the next slide, rather larger by premium. Premium by management domicile is more evenly balanced as between the different areas. Of course, EMEA is still the largest sector there, but the United States figures significantly there, along with Asia. Those are the three major parts of our business. And by vessel type, I think, which is a rather healthy breakdown actually, you'll see that there is a great deal of balance, a certain degree of equilibrium that's created on that particular analysis, which we're quite pleased about. But again, tankers just slightly ahead of dry bulkers in terms of their overall contribution to premium volume. Going on ahead quickly to look at claims and financial trends as of today. Retained claims over the last several years have been developing in a rather favourable manner, and we're seeing this particularly in the 2015 year. The red line there shows the average number of claims per annum per million tonnes of entered tonnage. Not in absolute terms, because obviously the size of the club varies from year to some extent, obviously. The true metric really to show how claims are developing in terms of their frequency is, I think, to look at the number of claims we have every million tonnes of entered tonnage, and you'll see that there's been a very significant improvement and a significant stabilisation of that particular trend over the last several years. 2015, of course, is a comparatively immature year, obviously, at this stage, and to that extent, therefore, you would expect it to be significantly lower than the earlier years, but the trend in that respect going forward, I think, will continue to be relatively benign. And the average cost per tonne of those claims over the years has been dropping significantly, well, by comparison to the 2008 year, and has been comparatively stable over the last several years, particularly from the 2012 year onwards. We are seeing a very benign development of retained claims in 2015, which we're rather pleased about. It's still, as I said earlier, an immature year, so it's not easy to make any firm predictions, but the development at the moment, the emergence of claims is quite good. And in fact, the claims cost per tonne at the moment is only $1.20 at this point in time, which is the best year we've had, certainly since 2010. So we're optimistic that 2015 will have a good turnout overall. Looking at the development of assumed claims, that is to say the claims that we assume by virtue of our participation in the pooling agreement of the international group, the trend is rather different. In fact, it's quite interesting, as you'll see there. 2008 was a very low year of exposure to pool claims. 2009 picked up a bit, 2010 again a bit more. 11 and 12 were the two worst years in recent memory on the pool, as you'll obviously be aware from what you read in the trade press, among other things, and probably what other clubs are saying. It got better over the last couple of years, and so far this year, the 2015 year, pool claims have been again emerging at a relatively benign rate. It's very early to make any firm prediction as to how the year will ultimately turn out, because pool claims are somewhat volatile in the manner in which they develop. So many of those claims, of course, depend upon human error or are caused by human error. And as we enter the winter season in the Northern Hemisphere, there is a tendency for exposures to increase. But so far, the 2015 pool year is unremarkable, in effect, which is encouraging. It's not bad at an early stage. Our premium per gross tonne, by comparison with average vessel size, I think is an interesting analysis to make. You'll see that it has been rather stable. It declined from a high point in 2008, mainly, as you'll see from the next figures there, because the average size of entry per unit in 2008 was rather smaller than is currently the case. So as individual vessels have got larger as the entry of the American Club's book has developed, particularly here in Greece and other parts of the world, so the average rate per tonne in relation to that larger tonnage on average has tended to decline, but encouragingly it has been pretty stable over the last several years. And this is against the background, of course, of the churn effect, which you've all read about, where older, higher rated tonnage is replaced by newer, very often new building vessels that attract much lower rates of premium. But we've been able to maintain a pretty steady development in terms of average rates per tonne over that period, which I think augurs well for the development of the club's business in the future. Retained claims and loss ratio development, again, is an interesting graph. This green line shows what the gross loss ratio for the American Club's book of business has been on a 5-year trailing basis since 2008. And in this particular case, it shows that the average of almost 80% has now declined to an average of 52% for those 5 years, those 5 trailing years over that period of time. So the years that the 2008 analysis would have included were years from about 2003 onwards. And of course, as time goes on and your overall record in terms of claims exposures improves, then those better years come into the calculation of the trailing loss ratio. And as a result, you see, as we can see here, although there was a bit of a blip in 2013, that in the generality, the improvement in the claims that I was just describing, and also the maintenance of rating integrity over that period of time has resulted in an improving loss ratio for the business as a whole. If the 2015 year turns out to be a good year, then that will come into the calculation next year. And we hope that the 52% might improve even further, which is a very encouraging sign for the future. That, of course, is the cost of retained claims per tonne, which I showed in the earlier graph, and you'll see that it doesn't exactly match the development of the green line, but there are certain similarities, particularly as we go further into 2015, where again it's showing some pretty good results. Investment performance is an interesting analysis. We've tended to outperform, by and large, the group as a whole, or at least been in the top quartile of group results in terms of the return on our investments over recent years. Obviously 2008 was not good, but it could have been a great deal worse, at an 8.5% loss. That was at the height of the meltdown of the global capital markets at that time. We were, and we still are, relatively heavily invested in US municipal bonds, which have certain tax advantages for the club, and they did rather well. They showed a great deal of strength, actually, comparatively speaking, over that period. So against a drop of something like 37% in the S&P 500 and 38% or whatever it was in the Dow, we nonetheless limited our losses to 8.5%. We did, in fact, rather than sell out, maintain our portfolio of equities, and of course that meant that when the rebound came in 2009, we did rather well. We did 12.4%, not quite so well in 2010 or 11. 12 was better, 13 pretty good, 14 still pretty good, bearing in mind that you're coming to the end of a 4 or 5 or 6 year bull market by that stage. Now, so far this year, and these are figures as of November the 16th, we've just done better than break even, because as everybody knows, the markets are very difficult at the present time, both in respect to fixed income securities and also in regard to the equities space. And other clubs, I think, have referred to losses on their investment book in recent months. We're just ahead of the game. We hope that if there's a bit of a Santa Claus rally, as they're called in Wall Street, towards the end of the year, we might actually pick up on that a bit. But I think that given the current climate, we're doing pretty well in relation to some of our competitors. So more on that in due course, but we remain hopeful that that figure will be better. Free reserves per tonne is a metric that's frequently used by clubs to indicate not necessarily in absolute terms what their free reserves are, but what they are in relation to their entered tonnage, which I think is a perfectly valid measure of relative strength in regard to reserve holdings. We've typically been around about, in recent years, $4. This is the analysis on a statutory basis. The American Club accounts in two basic forms, statutory and GAAP, which is a fine distinction in some respects as to the way in which certain investments and income and so on are treated. But it is the basis upon which Standard & Poor's views the club and makes its pronouncements. And you'll see there that, encouragingly, the free reserves per tonne, notwithstanding a difficult market over the past few years, has remained pretty stable. And of course, on a GAAP basis, it's slightly less because of the treatment of certain assets that the club holds, but it's still about $4 a tonne, which is a very respectable figure, I would suggest, by reference to club group, international group club results as a whole. So we're quite pleased about that. And that actually is at the end of September, which tends to be the end of the third quarter, because the American Club accounts on a financial year basis as at December 31st. So our quarters are those of the calendar year rather than of the insurance year, the policy year. And I think the fact that the September results are actually higher than they were as free reserves per tonne at the end of the previous year is an encouraging sign, and we hope that that might get better yet as we go towards December 31st. I want to talk to you briefly about Eagle Ocean Marine. Eagle Ocean Marine is a smaller ship fixed premium facility. Many of you, I suspect, are pretty familiar with it. We launched it back in 2011. It's underwritten by the American Club as primary insurer. It's operated by Eagle Ocean Agencies, Inc., to separate, as it were, as a brand of the American Club's overall product offerings. It is reinsured by Lloyd's and London market insurers. The American Club takes 50% of the underlying 10 million, and then there are conventional excess of loss placements up to 500 million, so it can offer cover up to 500 million if required. There are only a relatively few numbers of accounts where that figure is actually needed. It provides broad P&I and defence cover, very much in line with the Mutual Club. It's aimed at vessels of less than 12,500 gross tons. Typically, the average vessel size is significantly less than that, about 2,500 gross tons. That is a smaller ship facility. It's aimed at non-US operators in local and regional trade. Here in the Eastern Mediterranean, I'm sure there are many owners who fit into that particular category, and they're very much part of our target market. It is focused exclusively on traditional fixed premium sector. There is some sensitivity about this within the group at the moment, as you've probably read from trade winds and so on, but we are very clear that Eagle Ocean Marine is not to be, to quote an example from ancient Greek history, a Trojan horse, as it were, into the citadels of mutuality in order to disrupt the traditional mutual offerings of the group. That's not its intention at all. We believe that there is a very discrete, a very separate market for this kind of cover, and that is what Eagle Ocean Marine is designed to exploit. Obviously, here in particular, of course, with our wonderful SCB Hellas office, it has unsurpassed service and global capabilities, and it's gaining a strong market footprint. At the moment, that's mainly in Asia, but we are gaining further traction here in the Eastern Mediterranean, which we are certain will grow over the months and years ahead. And it is, in fact, growing its volume and its profitability as we go on. As you can see, as I just mentioned, a lot of it comes from Southeast Asia and North Asia in terms of the tonnage entered in it, but there is a growing sector from EMEA. And by vessel type, it's pretty much what you'd expect: 40% tugs and barges, small tankers, mainly product tankers, and bunkering vessels and things of that nature form the two largest sectors, and the rest is made up of a rather more varied type of vessel. It's done rather well, actually, most particularly in recent years. It started in 2011, and the premium development cumulatively, these are cumulative figures, has gone in that particular direction, rather like the hypotenuse in Pythagoras' theorem, which I'll talk more about actually at the end of this. And claims in the first year, or first couple of years, were relatively close to what we were earning in terms of premium, but they have fallen off quite substantially. We only have about 40 claims per annum in total on this particular book of business at present, and we hope obviously that that remains. I'm tempting fate, I suspect, by actually saying anything like that, but it has actually turned into a nice level of profitability, and this is shown on this net-net loss ratio analysis. 100, that's also a combined ratio, 100% being break-even. And we were marginally profitable in the first year of operation. We were unprofitable in the second, but the profitability of the book over the last 3 years has been very good indeed. And overall, we're running at a combined ratio or net loss ratio cumulatively of 64%, which is obviously a good figure. It implies a 36% profit, and that, of course, inures to the benefit of the mutuality of the club. And that is what it is aimed to do. So this is a form of diversification that's aimed very much at strengthening the mutual book, and it has not failed us so far in that context. We are very prudent in our underwriting policy, and we only look to getting the right rates for business, frankly. There's a lot of competition in that space at the moment. We are committed to being very prudent about things. So looking at the way ahead, what do we see as the major components of the future? Well, looking at the American Club now to begin with, we think that our core indicators reflect general market dynamics. For example, the fact that we have slightly more tankers entered in the club now than was the case 12 months ago is a reflection, to some extent, on the state of the BDI and the dry market in particular. Our tonnage and premiums, I think you've seen, are stable, and we have balanced sector weightings, both geographically and in terms of vessel type. Our retained claims are emerging favourably. Again, I hope I'm not giving a hostage to fortune or tempting fate, or attracting the evil eye, or being guilty of classical Greek hubris in that particular respect, but it does seem to be going quite well. And the pool, I think the best comment is to say that it's unremarkable at this point in time. Eagle Ocean Marine is progressing well. Investment performance is tracking the rather subdued trends of the market at large, but we think we're probably doing just as well as our competitors and arguably better in some sectors, so we'll keep a close eye on that. Our service capabilities are steadily expanding all over the world. We opened a new office in Dalian in northern China, a small representative office there only a couple of months ago, and that adds to our capabilities, not only in relation to our Asian book, but also to those owners, many of them from Greece, who travel regularly in their trading patterns to China. So we're expanding our service capabilities. And of course, which we'll be hearing a great deal more about after I've shut up, the American Hellenic Hull initiative is gaining momentum, which is a very good thing. And my colleague Vince Solarino and Ilias Tsakiris will be talking more about that, as I say, when I'm finished. The general outlook, well, there are signs that the global economy will recover somewhat in 2016. I think the IMF and the World Bank take the view that global growth should be on average about 3.6% next year, by comparison with about 3.1%, which is forecast for 2015. It's not much, but it does speak fairly encouragingly for world trade. The freight markets will probably lag that a bit, not necessarily in the tanker sector, which I think is comparatively buoyant at the moment. The dry bulk sector is, of course, having a very hard time, but perhaps rather optimistically, I am hopeful that the position will brighten by the middle of the year and beyond. I think that attritional claims will tend to trend upwards. We haven't seen that quite so much, I think, as some of our colleagues elsewhere in the group. One club I heard the other day said that they were seeing about a 4% average rise in the cost of attritional claims, even if there was a decline in frequency of those claims, which I think we've probably all seen as the international group. But we've been relatively flat. But of course, for example, there was an increase in the limitation fund calculations in June of this year by relation to the convention, the London Convention on the Limitation of Liability for Marine Claims, which went up by 51%, and that's going to have some kind of a knock-on effect, I suspect, over the years ahead. Exposure to large claims obviously remains volatile. As I said earlier, the pool has been relatively benign in the last 2 or 3 years, but that could change. I think that the investment climate, whatever the Fed is likely to do later this month, and given the problems in economies like China and so on, will remain subdued. I mean, mediocre, I think, at best. I think that the significant returns of the late part of the first decade of this century, in 09, 10, 11 and so on, are unlikely to continue, really. I think there'll be growing absorption of risk by clubs in the group. As you know, the individual club retention for 2016 is going to rise to $10 million as part of the pool arrangements. And of course, we're in the process now, too, of talking, or the group is, under the auspices of the Reinsurance Subcommittee, to our reinsuring underwriters at Lloyd's. And I think the pricing power, that is to say the ability of owners against the background of a difficult freight market, will remain challenged. The ability to get the right premium for particular risks, and that's something, you know, we as managers of the club have to live with. But it is a good thing, nonetheless, that, you know, claims have been relatively benign, I think, over the last 2 or 3 years. So hopefully we will, as is our continuing commitment, will remain completely committed to the interests of our owners. The way ahead, steady as she goes. We've said that, I think, now on these occasions for the last 2 or 3 years. It's steady progress. Things are progressing much as we expected them to, and we want to keep it that way through prudent underwriting and a disciplined approach to risk selection and rating. We will continue to have an emphasis on loss control and claims control, loss management, claims control. That's a very large part of what we do at the club, and if you go onto our website, that'll be very clear. We will have prudent and focused diversification into new business sectors. EOM is now well established, I would suggest, and of course the American Hellenic opportunity, which again will be described to you in greater detail in a moment, offers immense promise to the club, and we like to think by extension to the shipping community as a new and dynamic market with a splendid legacy position here in Greece in particular, and the Eastern Mediterranean in general, and wishing to diversify its offerings and its footprint across the globe. So we're incredibly enthusiastic about that. We will maintain, as I hinted earlier, an uncompromising solidarity with members in these difficult times. Staying ahead of the service curve is vitally important, because in difficult times owners expect unsurpassed levels of service in the day-to-day problems that they encounter in conducting their business. And we are celebrating our centennial in 2017, so we will be having a big party here during that year. The American Club is romantically 100 years old on St. Valentine's Day in 2017. I'm not saying that we'll have a special St. Valentine's Day party, but that technically is its centennial date. It was founded on February the 14th in 1917. We will be having a series of events to celebrate that milestone in due course. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I think is it. But before I go, and I'll only be brief about this, I want people sort of expect me to make a joke or something at this stage, but I actually intend to be rather more serious. Those that know me well know that I've always been interested in classical Greece ever since I studied ancient Greek at school in the late Middle Ages. But a long time ago, but anyway. And of course one of those interests that I have is in classical philosophy. And I was reading the other day about Aristotle's proof of Pythagoras' second theorem. Now this is not generally known. This is not something that, you know, you're taught in school, but everybody's taught Pythagoras' first theorem, which of course in any right-angled triangle, the square and the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the opposite sides, and that's his first theorem. But very, very few people know about his second theorem. Now his first theorem is a brilliant form of a priori knowledge. I mean, it's given us architecture, trigonometry, proofs of Newtonian physics, certain proofs of relativity. I mean, it's a blinding insight, a fantastic insight into just a constant reality that transcends everything, really, at least in scientific terms, mathematical terms. But his second theorem, which is much not known anything like as well, is women are crazy, men are stupid. And he wrote it just underneath, you know, the proof of his first theorem. The thing is, of course, nobody was able in classical times to actually prove this theorem. So it was more of a conjecture. You know, the pre-Socratics had a go at it. You know, Thales of Miletus did, Anaximander, Protagoras, Zeno, when he wasn't thinking about his paradox, gave a great deal of thought to this obvious truth. But how do you prove? What is the underlying proof of that? Well, how can it be established? Socrates thought about it, stumped him. Plato had a go at it, yeah, couldn't work it out. Until, of course, you come to that greatest of all classical philosophers, Aristotle. And he proved Pythagoras' second theorem, and he did so in a blinding flash of insight. You can read about it if you read Aristotle's Ethics. It's there. It's not much commented on, of course, you know, because but it's there. Aristotle proved Pythagoras' second theorem, women are crazy, men are stupid, by the simple fact that women are crazy because men are stupid. And there you are, the proof to Pythagoras' second theorem. Thank you very much.
Joe's speeches, you know, how could you follow Joe's speeches? He's so eloquent, he can talk about mushrooms or the breeding habits of crickets, and it sounds great. Well, mine will be interesting too. Typically, when I come to Greece, I prepare a speech. And typically, especially this year, because I've spent so much time here, I see a lot of old faces, friends, associates, and a lot of new faces and associates. It fills my head with at least enough words for 3 more speeches. So I can get carried away, which I have already done, and I haven't even started my speech. But it has been an exciting year. I've spent the better part of 3 months in Greece working diligently with Dorothea Ioannou, testing every theory that we can come up with and solution that may work in having an alliance with the Hellenic Hull Mutual, which I will get into a bit later. But I just wanted to state that the amount of time that was spent here, I've come to appreciate even more the Greek people, the Greek ship owner. It's like coming home to family when I come to Greece. I mean that, and I feel very comfortable when I come here, and I'm feeling more comfortable the more business we do with the Greek community. I've come to know and respect Ilias Tsakiris, Ilias Bobolis, and his team at Hellenic Hull. They have done a fantastic job, and they've proven to me that they are worthy of being part of an operation for the American Club and take us far into the future. I will speak more about that in due course. But as Joe had presented in his State of the Union of the American Club, these are necessary things to do. State the statistics, the free reserves, the claims cost analysis. All P&I clubs do this. They have to give you a feeling that the financial statements are sound, which they are sound. Our numbers are improving, and everything is in the upward movement. I wish I could say the same about the shipping community, and we all know what the shipping market's like. The economy is tough, and the service we provide to you, more than insurance, it's a service. We understand that you're going through tough times, and we try to work with every member that we can. And we continue to do that. As you all know, we are a full pulling member of the prestigious international group of P&I clubs. That's very important. That means that we have the strength and the backing of all of the P&I clubs. There's 13 in the international group. That translates to counterparty credit in S&P terms. That means we have a strong backing to support whatever the American club does. All P&I clubs are sound. We're one of the P&I clubs, and you can feel safe and secure when you're with any of the P&I clubs, including the American Club. We can handle a claim the size of a Costa Concordia because of the pooling mechanism and because of the large reinsurance program that the international group purchases on behalf of all the P&I clubs. So we are sound, we can handle that claim. Size doesn't matter in this business when we're talking about the P&I clubs. It may elsewhere, but here it doesn't. So big or small, every P&I club has financial capacity to cover your claims. And the service we provide to our Greek shipping membership from a very talented office right here in our Piraeus office in this building provides unsurpassed service, equal to or better than other P&I clubs. And all P&I clubs, we believe, give good service. Statistics about free reserves, claims development, operating performance are all important. And you will hear this presented by every P&I club. As a COO, I'm concerned about those numbers as well. But Joe spoke enough about the numbers. I want to speak to you about something more than just numbers, more than the measure of a P&I club or of any institution. It's about the heart of our organization. It's about the initiative and innovation of our organization. And it's about our sincerity behind our words and financial statistics. Last year when I addressed this audience, I commented on how much I respected the Greek shipowner and Greek shipping community. I stated that Greece is at the epicenter of shipping with a proud legacy and fierce determination to emerge successfully from a very difficult and long-lasting down cycle. I also stated that Greece helped the American Club become the success that it is today. And we sincerely appreciate your trust and your continued support. So when earlier this year we were made aware of an opportunity to support the Greek shipping community, not just with words or statistics, but with an investment in a part of Greek shipping legacy. We reached in a swift and intelligent manner to provide an innovative solution to a traditional problem. We invested in the continued legacy of the Hellenic Hull Mutual that served the Greek and Cypriot community for 21 years. In their efforts to save the Hellenic Hull Mutual from a series of damaging economic and banking issues, the board of Hellenic Hull Mutual, in particular Angelos Kostakos, also American Club board member, suggested to Ilias Tsakiris, the managing head of the Hellenic Hull Management company, that he speak with us about a possible solution. That suggestion was initially discussed with our Dorothea Ioannou, who in turn presented me with what initially appeared to be an improbable, if not impossible, task. But the heart of the club and its managers beat strong in the challenge to devise a workable solution that could salvage a part of Greek shipping legacy, provided us with the needed initiative to make mission impossible, mission possible. The entire board of the American Club was behind us and unanimously voted in favor of going forward with this strategic investment, as well as the entire board of Hellenic Hull Mutual, many who are here today, and we appreciate that confidence and that forward thinking. The American Club, through a newly formed subsidiary, created the American Hellenic Hull Insurance Company Limited. It's a Cypriot regulated company. It will be in compliance with Solvency II, and you all are aware by now of Solvency II's implementation, full implementation, on January 1st of 2016. And they have pillars 1, 2, and 3. So our new American Hellenic Hull Insurance Company will be Solvency II compliant and will address all of the pillars 1, 2, and 3 to get satisfactory Cypriot regulatory approval. We expect the licensing to be presented to us by January 1st. That's our target date, January 1st. But because Solvency II is so new in its implementation, there are a series of outstanding issues that are still being worked on as we speak. They haven't been resolved. Hopefully they will be resolved for the better part by January 1st, but that may have a delay factor, but we still are confident that we're going to have our licensing approval by January 1st. We visited several times with the Cypriot regulators, face to face, not just through the mail. They are very proactive. It's invigorating working in an atmosphere like the Cypriot government. So we have high hopes and expectations that will all come out on a timely basis. There are still unclear issues, as I had mentioned, but we'll resolve those. The American Hellenic will be a traditional stockholding company. Fixed premium hull insurance, not mutual accessible like the Hellenic Hull Mutual was. We're issuing fixed policies, which is the traditional way in the hull market. Initially, we'll be concentrating on Greece and Cyprus, as Hellenic Hull Mutual was formed to cater to this industry. We will eventually and gradually, and we are doing that now, expand beyond Greece and Cyprus and have more international book. That's a good balance in a portfolio for any insurance company, and it will assist in developing the hull book to a sound financial statement. Our efforts will include cross-selling That was one of the issues that we had faced and one of the opportunities we saw, cross-selling between American Hellenic and the American P&I Club. We're already starting to see some of that happen, and we're happy to say that it's on schedule and even ahead of schedule. The American Hellenic will be managed by the existing team of Hellenic Hull Management, Ilias Tsakiris and his team. And it is important to note that the American Hellenic is not a startup company. It's not another Lloyd's syndicate. Instead, it will carry on an established book of business with an established management team. It is a successor company. Now, we're all quite aware that in this market, Hull Insurance doesn't necessarily produce consistent profits. But as I stated before, this business can't be reduced to only facts and figures and profit margins. It is about sincere goodwill, investing and building even stronger relationships with the shipping community, especially here in Greece. As I stated at the beginning of my presentation, there is importance in more than words and financial statistics. It just so happens that I have a brief story to say. It's a true story as well, as true as Joe's. It starts with a woman who is walking to her office for the first time. It's a new office. And as she's walking to her office, she passes a pet shop. In the front of the pet shop is this big, beautiful parrot on a perch. She passes by the parrot. The parrot yells out, "Hey, lady." She turns around. She doesn't know where it's coming from, and she sees that it came from the parrot. She says, "Yes." That parrot says, "You're really friggin' ugly." She was appalled. She didn't know what to do, so she just went on her way, went to her office. On the second day, she's walking to her office, passing by the same pet shop. There's the parrot, standing on its perch. As she's passing the parrot yells out again, "Hey, lady." She turns and she says, "Yes." The parrot says, "You're really friggin' ugly." She just takes off, more aggravated than the day before. On the third day, this is starting to sound like the 12 days of Christmas. It's not. On the third day, she's walking to her office and she passes by the pet shop. The parrot is there. As she's walking by, the parrot does the same thing. "Hey, lady." She turns around, mean looking, and the parrot goes, "You're really freaking ugly." That's it. She walks into the pet shop. She starts yelling at the pet shop owner, telling him that she's going to call the police, she's going to file suit with her attorney, and she's going to call animal rights and have that parrot taken away. Pet shop owner says, "No, please, 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 don't do that. This is a very expensive parrot. I've trained it for many, many years. Just give me a check." He will not do it again, I promise you. He won't do it again. So, the next day the woman is walking, the fourth day now, walking past the pet shop. And the parrot is there. Now the parrot has on a little Santa's hat, a little red cape, and a bell in his foot. So she walks by, she stops right in front of the parrot this time, looks straight at the parrot, waiting for him to say something. And the parrot just says, "Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas," and rings his bell. Okay. She turns, starts to walk away when the parrot yells out, "Hey, lady." She turns around and says, "Yes." And the parrot goes, "You know." Some words don't need to be spoken. Thank you for your support and continued support in the future.
Thank you, Vince. Our next speaker will be addressing the American Club membership for the first time. This is Ilias Tsakiris, and he's the Managing Director of the Hellenic Hull Management.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to see you, to be amongst friends and colleagues again, and for us it's a great opportunity to be able to address your public today and explain exactly what is this particular investment that the American Club has actually done. Without further ado, I can't say jokes, take it from already, I can't do that. So I'm going to be a bit boring. So basically this is the timeline of the actual deal. As you can see, 1st of April we started the discussions. Somewhere in August, we finished the due diligence by KPMG. Contracts were signed 1st of September. From then on, we have applied to the authorities. The name of the company is going to be American Hellenic Hull Insurance Company Limited, which basically respects the legacy of the Hellenic Hull Mutual Association, which I will be talking a bit more later. And of course, the American, which is the main driving force for this particular venture to take place. We're expecting, as Vince Solarino was saying, we expect the authorities now to come back with the license approval. The problem is that the law is currently being under vote in the Parliament of Cyprus. And we have to be compliant to a law that hasn't been voted yet. So we are hopeful and we are optimistic that everything will be done on time. We are using the assistance of KPMG, which are extreme professionals on this particular side. And we are hopeful that American Hellenic, first of all, we will start writing business from 1/1. Now, as far as the legacy bit is concerned, and for those that are not familiar with the Hellenic Hull Mutual Association, I would allow me a few words for that. As the association was launched in February 1994, her sole purpose was to insure exclusively Greek and Cypriot vessels against hull machinery risk. Over the years, the association evolved, and by evolving, participated on a subscribing line at 10 to 15%. The unfortunate events in Cyprus and in Greece in general tested the strength and the very foundation of the association. Despite the avalanche of these unfortunate events, which were beyond anybody's control, we managed to escape with minor bruises. The assets that we move forward to the new American Hellenic is our underwriting philosophy, for starters, which hasn't failed us. For the last, our historical loss ratio runs at 67%. Basically, we are running on a 30% underwriting profit every year. On the other hand, in order to be able to be profitable, we have to be cost effective too. Therefore, we have developed with Microsoft a custom-made software called Navins that basically reduces the time that is required to prepare a quotation when an inquiry comes in, and it's been done with the fewest possible manpower. As an example of efficiency, we have actually examined the program by now, that it can handle 1,000 inquiries per month and with a return of 24 hours, with only one person. In addition, as you are very well aware, we were insuring on average around 1,000 to 1,200 vessels, which was about the 25% of the Greek shipping. Equally, we were having an excellent reinsurance program and an excellent reinsurance claims record. Over those 20 years, Hellenic had never had a defaulted reinsurance underwriter, never had a declined claim from a reinsurance, never had anything. This is the legacy that we basically took with us to the American Hellenic. As it is obvious, there are several questions that can be asked on this. So, in order to sum up what it has already been said, I needed to address the issue of certain questions and rumors that are flying about, such as, for example, if this is a buyout or an acquisition. No, it's not. What has happened is that the board of Hellenic Hull Mutual Association, who its chairman and members are here today, has unanimously given an authorization to the managers, i.e. us, to negotiate with the American Club in order to form a Solvency II compliant insurance company in Cyprus. In exchange of this cooperation, the American Club now will provide to the current members and the former members of the association financial support in order financial support, and in exchange we will assist in the forming of the new American Hellenic Insurance Company. Hellenic Hull, on the other hand, will continue to operate up until the license of the American Hellenic Insurance Company is active. Then Hellenic Hull will go into runoff. At this stage, runoff gives possible negative connotations. There is nothing negative because all claims, and I stress that, with the assistance, of course, and the financial support of the American Club, will be paid and covered fully by the American Club. However, of course, the contributions of the members of the Hellenic Hull Club, of course, are due, and as we speak now, we are very close of closing almost all balances. The third part, and which was one of the prerequisites that both the managers of the American, which I need to thank also for their support and dedication, was the capital adequacy. The easy way around of capital adequacy is just to fill in the form and just say this is the amount, X million of dollars, and that's it. With the American Club, we went a step further, and what we did were we asked for KPMG and with the assistance, and we ran all sorts of catastrophe scenarios. With these catastrophe scenarios, what we actually did, we arrived in a capital model that actually can withstand whatever adverse events can have. For example, in default reinsurer, collapse in a bank, which has happened in real life. Therefore, the capitalization of the new company is going to be over and above what is required by law. If you ask me now exact figure, I can't give you the exact figure because it's not up to us to announce the exact figure, it's up to the authorities to announce the exact figure that is required. But we have a very good idea because we have been doing the stress test with the authorities. Finally, as Vince said, American Club and the American Club and the American Hellenic will remain separate legal entities. That means that the American Club will continue to be managed by SCB and the American Hellenic Insurance Company will be managed by Hellenic Hull Management. There are cross-selling opportunities, as Vince said, but however, the entry to the American Hellenic doesn't mean that you have to be a member of the American Club to enter to the American Hellenic and vice versa. Every entry to both entities has to be judged to its merits and to its own underwriting teams. However, I need to add in this point that we will be maintaining Hellenic Hull Management premises in Cyprus and in Piraeus, and quite graciously the SCB will be allowing us some space in either in New York and London and Far East, which we do not actually have presence, in order to market the new effort. Now, going to the more details now. The American Club will be, of course, the American Hellenic Insurance Company will be a marine underwriter, of course, with its own directors, with its own board directors and its own managers. It will be autonomous, as I said, and it will be commercial. Either that means that it will be on a fixed premium basis. The intention is that the American Hellenic Insurance Company will have its own individual investment rating in the next couple of years. However, for the first couple of years, though, as it is a 100% subsidiary of an IG club, it should be considered as an approved security by all major brokers and financial institutions. However, the main differential of what we know now is that this particular American Hellenic will be now global. Therefore, we will be accepting businesses from all parts of the world. And I will come to this point later, especially for the brokers. Of course, it will be hull and machinery, of course, up to 10 million for year one, and war risk up to 50 million. For the 50 million of the war risk, we are still in negotiation. This might go up to 100 million, depending we are currently in negotiations. And but it will provide enough cover for owners to be fully secured. We will be riding on a follow line basis on an average line of 10%. And in addition to this, the American Hellenic will add certain functions which we didn't have in the past, such as compliance officers now, because there are requirements by law, risk managers and actuaries. On the other hand, because we will be following the traditional leading markets, settlements will follow as per leader, of course, within 7 to 8 days. Quotations now will be available from the inquiry within 24 hours, our response on quotation. And this is extremely important because we address now an international public, this will be a 24/7 service. Therefore, if a Chinese or a Far Eastern broker comes with an inquiry, he will get it within 24 hours, or an American broker, of course. Now, in more detail, we will be insuring Ajax vessels that are entered with Ajax, white flags, of course. Unfortunately, we can't do Sigletons. And we will remain to as far as newer tonnage as possible. Over 15 years old, there has to be a special consideration as far as the rating model is concerned. Despite the fact that our pen is fairly independent and we can actually write and price the risk as we think fit, we consider that over 15 years old have an active, let's say, claims frequency, and therefore special consideration should be given. If it belongs to a fleet, if it's a fleet over 15 years old, special consideration should be given. Sanctions, of course, are applicable, as you all know now, either US, EU, or UN, which is fairly standard now. What we are trying to build with this main underwriting, let's say, guidelines, is that we are trying to build a homogeneous portfolio in order to safeguard the accuracy, first of all, of our projections, and of course, to protect the fortune of our stakeholders. Now, as we have said, from 1st of September, we are writing business again as Hellenic Hull Mutual using the license of Hellenic Hull Mutual. We have reinstated the insurance covers and everything. Therefore, as we speak now, and everything is insured under the innovation clause. The innovation clause basically gives us the authorization to transfer business to the new company when it commences operating. As we speak now, we currently insure 249 vessels from 1st of September. That's brand new vessels. And we anticipate we have a promise for 600 vessels at the end of the year. So we expect around 800 vessels at the end of the year, before we actually get licensed. So you can imagine that there is a huge momentum towards this particular venture. As I said, the average line will be around 10%. As Vince said, this is not a startup company. It's an evolution of a very successful local mutual, which was, it's an evolution of a very successful local mutual that actually becomes international now. At this point, I want to go a bit off track. It won't be a joke, unfortunately. I would like to personally, and on behalf of all the board directors and members of the Hellenic Hull Mutual Association, to publicly say thank you to the board, to the managers of the American Club, the BOD, and the members of the American Club for their dedication and support for the Hellenic Hull. With this deal, Greek and Cypriot insurance industry is given a golden opportunity to claim a leading role in the international market. At last, our part of the world will be having its own and recognized and global marine underwriter. Greek and Cypriot brokers, all these years, were producing business to other foreign brokers. Now, with the American Hellenic Insurance Company, you can place international business on behalf of your foreign colleagues, and we all owe this ability to the American, and I would like to publicly again say thank you to the American for all of us and for the Greek shipping community. Thank you very much, guys.
I'm not the next speaker. The next speaker needs no introduction, but she deserves an introduction. Dorothea Ioannou is the Managing Director of the Piraeus office, and she's also Global Business Development Director. Working with Dorothea for so many hours, so many days this year, I have come to realize that you cannot write a script ahead of time for her. She evolves by the hour. She's intelligent, She's a good manager, a great manager, a good leader, and she is socially conscious, and she is known by many in this community. So she needs no introduction to you, but she deserves one. She has been elevated in our company, and she will continue to move forward in our company because she is that good. She's special, and we're lucky to have her. So I introduce to you the magnificent, the beautiful Dorothea Ioannou.
I just forgot everything I was going to say now, so anyway. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. I just want to say a few things to conclude today's presentations. Yeah, you really threw me off now. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. I wanted to thank you for joining us and listening to all the exciting news and all the developments and listening to what we've been doing over the last few months. As most of you know, every year I take this opportunity to talk to you about the great dedication and the commitment that the American Club has with the Greek market and the surrounding region, which we call EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, Africa. And I usually update you on the growing strength of the local Hellas team. This year, I really can't describe to you how happy I am to make this report. You've seen when Joe spoke that 56% of the club's membership is based in the EMEA region, the majority of which is right here in this building, right here in Greece. You've heard about the greater connection that we've made with Greece and Cyprus through the strategic investment, which has recreated a local hull capacity using local expert know-how through an alliance with the Hellenic Hull Management's team, now bolstered by the American Club and its management team. Over the summer, and as you just heard, Vincent J decided to place their faith in me, based right here in Greece, and in this team here, to manage the business development strategy for all the products across all the regions on behalf of the American Club. This is a very significant decision, as it recognizes the successful model that we've implemented in this region, and it also recognizes the dedication also of this market to the club through its growing local membership, both in the P&I Mutual as well as in Eagle Ocean Marine, and of course the anticipated growth and what we've already seen through the American Hellenic. So what's part of this model? Well, the main part of this model is up here on the screen. It's ensuring top service through top executives well placed to service the most sophisticated users in the P&I industry, and that's right here. As you know, every year I display an updated picture of our local team, and this year I'm happy to advise that we're a larger, stronger, and more diversified team, now a year older, or I'd like to say wiser, with a combined experience of about 100 years altogether in the maritime industry. We look pretty good for 100 years, I think, right? I'm gonna start with Joanna Kukuli. I put the names up so that it's easier for us to follow, although I'm pretty sure that you all know who each person is. But I just want to make sure you understand the kind of experience and the expertise that goes behind each and every person, which makes this such a wonderful team. So Joanna Kukuli is our claims manager, recently made claims manager this year when I moved off of claims and went into the business development. Joanna is a triple qualified lawyer with 16 years experience in the maritime industry, with both practicing as well as in-house experience prior to joining the club. Marivi Banu is our deputy claims manager, and she is a marine insurance claims expert with 16 years experience as well in the sector, including experience in marine insurance broking. Despina Beveratu, our senior claims executive, has 15 years of experience in claims management. Actually, Despina is now in China, helping us also to do some additional training in that office. And she also has in-house owning claims handling experience, both here and abroad. Adonis Babas is a claims executive and a lawyer with 13 years of experience in the maritime sector, including practicing at a local office of an English law firm. I think we don't need to put his name there. You know who Adonis is, but I did it anyway. Maria Mavroudi is our latest addition to the team here in Piraeus. She's joined us and become a business development and claims executive, and she comes to us from another local office of another IG club and brings with her 8 years of experience in the industry, including average adjusting. Vinay Madda, a claims executive and a lawyer who started with us actually as an intern in 2006 and evidences how valuable it is to start early and do internships in order to get your foot in the door. And now Vinay is with us for 5 years and now has 5 years of experience in handling maritime claims with the club. Annie Papadimitriou, who's right here next to me, is our claims assistant and business development administrator. Annie's not only my right hand, she's my left hand as well. And she's been with us for the last 10 years when we opened up the office. And she came to us also with previous experience assisting in operations with a Greek ship owner. Chrysanthi Paplomata, who is up there on top of us. Unfortunately, she was not around when we took the picture, so I put her right on top of us because we were thinking about her. Chrysanthi is a claims assistant, and she is our Chinese-speaking lawyer in the office, and she joined us a year and a half ago, also started as an intern, but she's also already running full speed as if she's been doing this for years. Stavroula Leodara is our claims processing administrator, and she's been with us since 2007, and I'm sure that a lot of you have come to know her very well because she is the key player ensuring timely processing of all your claims from the Hellas office. I think, having said that, I think that we all agree that the P&I industry and marine insurance in general is a people business. It's built on relationships. It's unique in that we don't only look at the financial strength of the company, but we look at the people behind the business, and this works also both ways. Indeed, I don't believe we know, or at least I don't, or even care to know, the people that are behind our life insurance, or our car insurance, or our home insurance, although these are all vital parts of ensuring our security. So, because we understand that, what we've been doing at the American Club is working not only on expanding the relationships, but also making these relationships stronger, both through this latest investment and alliance, as well as through the global team across all functions. We now not only have regional claims staff fully qualified to handle all the range of problems that our members encounter all over the world, but we also now have executives and directors of business development in each office to strengthen our network, and in particular the reach of the underwriting management in New York. It's the relationship, though, in the end of the day, in this market that has provided the largest base for our business development strategy. And from here, now, we reach out to the other regions to provide a steady foundation for further growth. In the end of the day, we know that we can only be as strong as our membership. So we look forward to growing stronger with you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for being patient and listening to all of our news today. I want to let you know that we are having cocktails, buffet lunch on both floors, on both the 7th and the 8th, because we're so happy that there's so many of you. Thank you once again.